Hello, people, and welcome back to my book readings. Today we have a different kind of book that's not a ordinary book you can find in stores or online. This is a book that I have been working on personally for quite a while now. This is actually the second version of the book, because the first version, I didn't like it. The first version it felt too sore, it was just not that good. So I'm remaking it. Yes, I am currently still in the process of writing this book, but I decided to read out some of the chapters I've got so far, so you guys can get a feel for what I've got going on here. So the book I am working on and reading for you is called Fazbear's Pizza. It is a fan book based on the game and now movie franchise Five Nights at Freddy's. And it's my own kind of take on the game's story, but in a different way. And yeah. Like I said, this is very incomplete, so I'll not get to reading every chapter just yet, since there's only like 5 complete chapters right now. I'll post a video for each chapter, probably every day until I can finish it. But I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I'm just going to get straight into this right now. Chapter 1. Mike. We approached the stage. He kept crying. "Please, put me down," he said from behind all of his tears. My friends kept a hold of him as we got closer to the stage. They held a yellow rabbit and a bear, both with a golden yellow killer. "I think the special birthday boy wants to give Fazbear a big kiss," I said as we stopped at the stage. "Ready?" I asked my friends. "On 3. I started counting as my little brother continued to try and be free. 1. We started to lift him up. 2. He was closer to the jawed bear. 3. We thought it was funny at first, seeing him squirm while stuck in the bear's mouth. But then the last one was silent almost immediately, as a loud crunch bounced off the walls of the restaurant. The jaw had closed. Tightly. My younger brother fell to the floor as blood splattered everywhere. I couldn't believe it. It was supposed to be a prank. I didn't want to harm him. An alarm went off. It was my alarm. I had that dream again. It has haunted me ever since it happened. I think that day was what would make my family the way it is today. My younger sister passed away in one of my dad's machines. My mother left, and my dad had been missing for years. I was, for as far as I'm aware, the last living member of my family. A new day that wasn't very different from the previous one. I'd gotten a job so I could at least have a home and feed myself, but it is one of those things where you don't really like it, but you make yourself do it anyways. I got up from my bed and stretched. The day had begun. I poured myself a cup of coffee and cooked up a slice of toast. Breakfast hasn't been the same since I was a teenager. My mom always made the best breakfast, even though it is made the exact same way I am making it right now. Dad was always too busy with his job at the restaurant he made. Ever since he and his friend Henry Emily made the first 2 robots, it's been super successful. Except for the day it was shut down. I remember another location being opened by Henry a few years back. It's like a spin-off pizzeria of Fredbear's called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. I'm pretty sure that place closed a few weeks before my father's disappearance because of some missing kids incident. I'm pretty sure they never found the kids and they were just assumed dead at that point. It took me a while to realize that I was just zoning out over my empty plate, which had recently held toast. I had to be at work soon, so I had to get my stuff ready right that moment and get out of the house. I put my plate in the sink, quickly ran to my room to get my uniform on, and got out to the house and started up the car. I was going relatively fast down the road. Trees and houses blurred past as I drove around the corners and up and down hills. I couldn't be late to work again. If I was, it wouldn't be so good for me. I had been late multiple times before in my job as a security guard at some random mall that I swear people only go to just because they're interested in what it has. It was already 9:45 a.m. and I had to be there by at least 10. Small shops and businesses flew past in a blur of colors. Red lights slowed me down even more, and my anxiety was increasing as time ticked down. Rounding more corners and passing more buildings, I don't even know why I still work here. No one goes to that mall except maybe a few people there, probably tourists. I could see the mall in the distance, and right across it was the old abandoned strip mall that I guess the big mall replaced. I was almost there, but only 4 minutes until I was late. My boss was super strict about times. If you weren't at work by the time you're supposed to be there, you'd be in trouble, and it only takes 3 strikes to knock you out of the park. I was lucky enough to have my boss increase my strike count, but I feel like he was getting close to letting me go. I pulled into the mall's parking lot and looked at the time. Shit, I said to myself. Shit. I'm 2 minutes late. I dropped my head into my steering wheel. I picked my head back up and got out of the car. I quickly walked into the building and looked around. Everything looked fine so far, near empty as usual, with maybe 30 people around. Just then, a loud screech came on as the intercom had turned on. I could recognize a tired voice over it as I have heard it multiple times. I was on good terms with Gary. He is nice until he gets pissed off. He had a nervous tone in his voice today, though. Probably concerned for me as he had mentioned my name. Could Michael A. please come to the manager's office? Michael A. to the manager's office. Gary spoke to the whole mall in his tired and nervous tone. Embarrassment filled my body as most of the people here knew me, as they were just usuals that came by for a bit of shopping. They should probably stop knowing me, though, as I don't think I'm staying here for much longer. I approached the door to the manager's office, only to see Gary staying outside the door, anxious. Let me guess, I'm being talked about being late again? I asked with an unamusing tone. Why don't you just go inside and see for yourself? Gary wasn't happy. I mean, he never was, but this was different. I walked into the office and was met with my boss sitting in his chair, drinking his coffee. Come in, Mike. His voice sounded serious. I stepped in further to the office. Please, sit down. Get comfortable. Was I in trouble or not? He sounded pretty friendly for getting ready to yell at me. You were late again. You know that, right? Yes, I know. I'm sorry. My sleep has been messing with me, and I've just been having my own problems recently. That's alright. I understand. It's not easy living alone. He sat back in his chair. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to find somewhere else to work because, you know, we have a strict schedule for when employees arrive to work. I have given you many excuses, but I can't keep doing that. I understand, sir. It's been nice having you as my boss. It's been nice working with you, too. We shook hands, and he handed me my stuff. Hey, you can still come by and shop, though. I'll even let you say hi. Sound good? At least I wasn't banned from the mall. Yeah, that sounds good. Have a good day, sir. You too, Mike. He waved off as I left the room, and Gary was still standing outside the door. He probably heard the entire conversation. Well, I guess I'll see you around. Gary held out his hand and I shook it. See you around. I depressingly walked out of the employees-only room and made my way to the entrance to the mall. Aside from some of the customers, it is nice working here. It's a shame I won't be able to work here again. Being a mall security isn't everyone's dream, but it's good enough for me. It paid well and got me through life pretty well. But now, I have to find somewhere else to work. I looked day after day for good jobs. None of them paid well enough to keep me alive in a home or require 10 years of experience or something. I've only had 5 years of being a mall security guard. I tried looking for security jobs, but never found anything that were close to me. I eventually gave up searching after what it felt like I looked at every choice out there. I laid down in defeat. There was nothing else I could do. But as if I wasn't already disappointed, it hit me. Tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary of the day. It pains me to think about it. We've had a gathering at the graveyard ever since my sister died and was buried. We used to gather there as a family on the day of my brother's death. At least, that's what I've been told. I was never invited. My dad never forgave me for my brother's death, so I was never invited to the gathering. This year is different, though. We haven't done the gathering in a while, though. I think the last time we did it was on the year my mom went missing, and a few weeks after my dad Yeah, sorry. I think the last time we did one was the year my mom went missing, a few weeks after. My dad used to have a friend. He was his business partner. His name was Henry Emily. He's been a close friend of my family, almost to a point where he was family. Henry decided to visit the graveyard tomorrow, and he invited me as well. He says that he forgives me now and blames on how I was a stupid teenager who didn't know what could happen, which was partially true. He also just wanted to catch up as well, as since we haven't talked in years. I don't know how I can handle it. I mean, it's been years, but still, I don't forgive myself. I guess the only way to make up for it was to say sorry in person. The screams, the blood, the fear on my face, it came back. But it's almost like I was back there again. It felt more real than it did last time. I could almost feel the blood spray through my mask and onto my face. I could almost see the fur on the bear turn wet with the crimson red color. The dark imagery formed into the light of color of the sun coming through my window. The dream came back once more. I'm hoping that after today, the dream won't ever come back again. I got up from my bed again, in no rush this time, as I have no more job. It is the same morning as the others have been. Grab some breakfast, do whatever I need to do, the usual. Today was the day I meet Henry at the graveyard, though, so that's something different at least. It was just a few more hours until I had to go, so I decided to use that time to clean up the house a little bit. The dust had collected a little bit since I last cleaned it, since I last cleaned it was past due for cleaning. I finished cleaning the house just in time as it was almost time to head out, finishing up with the final few things. I put away my supplies and grabbed my keys, heading out of the house and towards my car. The weather was a nice steady breeze today that really collapsed with the warm temperature. I barely even needed to turn on my AC in the car like I normally do since the past few days have been hotter. It was a nice change of pace, but I had to head out to the graveyard now. The car started and I was off. The graveyard was only a few miles away, which was good if you're on a time crunch sorta like me, since I told Henry I'd meet him at exactly 3:40 p.m. Driving down the road peacefully for once was nice. Sure, some assholes cut me off occasionally, but for all I know, they could be late for their jobs like I was many times. It was nice being able to see every house and building as I drove. Normally all I would see is blurry shapes as I rushed by them. It wouldn't be too much longer before I arrived to the site. Just a few more turns. All it took was one more corner and I arrived at the graveyard. I never really came here, but this time was different. Finding parking out front, I left my car and made my way in. There was an old-looking arch that loomed over you as you entered. It had the words, Hurricane Cemetery, founded in 1598. That explained why it looked so old. It was 1993 after all, and I was shocked that gates still stood with how long they'd been there. There was a hill practically right in front of the gates, so I took the steps up it. I had never realized how big the cemetery was, but now standing on top of this hill, I could see how big it was. What made it more depressing was that there were graves lined up almost everywhere. It wouldn't be too hard to find my destination, though, as I just needed to look for Henry standing near a grave. I walked around, seeing each grave of families torn apart. Some dated back to near when the cemetery was built, and they definitely showed their age too. There were cracks and missing chunks and faded text on them, but I had found what I was looking for. There was a man leaning up next to a tree. He wore glasses and had a full beard on his face. Even though the beard hid half his face, I knew just who it was. Hey, Henry. I walked over to his shade in which he was standing in. He looked up at me as I approached. He smiled a bit. Glad that I showed up. Been a while, hasn't it? I asked. Hey, I'm glad that you showed up. I didn't know if you would actually show up since I know it could be a little sensitive to you. Henry responded. He got off the tree and hugged me before putting his hands in his pockets. Yeah, I should be good though. It doesn't affect me as much anymore. I looked over at all the graves again. Still made me feel uneasy. Alright, well, are you ready? Henry asked. I was ready to head off to the spot where my brother was buried. Yeah, yes I am. We made our way through the cemetery until we found the graves. The first grave read, Evan Afton, born 1974, passed 1983. The grave next to that one read, Elizabeth Afton, born 1981, passed 1986. Both gone too soon with familiar fates. It felt almost illegal for me to be looking at my brother's grave, especially after what I did to him. The graves weren't just empty, though. There were items placed on the bases of the graves that must have been left by my parents, since I recognized all of them. On Elizabeth's grave had the broken toy Foxy doll's head that she destroyed only a week after getting it, as well as a plastic ice cream cone as that was her favorite snack. Evan's grave held a little Fredbear Plus. He used to carry it around everywhere with him, which was strange since he was terrified of the actual animatronic. It's a shame. They're both still in the single digits. You know, and I forgive you for that day in '83. You know, you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know what it would do either, Henry spoke up after a few moments. He kept looking at the graves as he spoke. Yeah, if I knew the spring locks in its mouth were sensitive to water, I wouldn't have put him in there. I'm sorry if I broke your robot, by the way. I think I might have heard something else snap besides, well... I looked off into the grave for my brother again as I nearly finished the sentence. It's good, Mike. Fredbear was going to be scrapped later for parts after the diner closed anyways. What about Spring Bonnie? Was he going to be scrapped too? I asked. Spring Bonnie was the companion to Fredbear on the stage and at the diner. Henry grew concerned. Oh, well, your dad was supposed to take it because he found it as his most prized possession, but I think the suit was somehow stolen or something, as I think the suit was involved in the missing children's incident at my Freddy's location. I don't know if your dad was involved in that or not, though. As I heard Henry speak, I was reminded of the incident. The news that the news stations covered. I had no idea who was supposed to be in that suit, but whoever it was sick and twisted for taking away innocent lives like that. Let's hope he's not. He's already got 2 child deaths on his hand. He doesn't need more. I kept looking at the Fredbear Plus as I spoke. It felt like something was calling out to me, or something like that. I had the urge to take it, but knew it would be wrong, at least in front of people. Hey, there's another grave somewhere around here. I'm going to visit that one if that's okay with you. I mean, you can come along too if you want. It's your choice, Henry spoke up, snapping me out of my stare contest with the Plus. Oh, yeah. You can go and do that. I'll hang around here a little longer. I'll catch up with you. I thought this would be a perfect time to take the Plus while Henry's somewhere else, so my plan was spun into play while Henry walked off. I quickly snatched the dirty Plus and hid it in my jacket. I soon followed Henry towards another grave. This one was dated 1983 as well. Charlotte Emily, born 1973, passed 1983. It is Henry's only child, the only thing that still loved him before Fredbear's closure. Henry's wife had thought he was too caught up in his own work that he didn't have time for her or his daughter, and she left him just a month or two before Fredbear's closed. All Henry had left it was his little Charlie, who had loved him no matter how caught up he was. Unfortunately, only 1 week after my brother's death, Charlie was found outside of Fredbear's, tossed next to the dumpsters, stab wound on her torso, and the security marionette placed next to her. Henry had never known how the marionette animatronic got outside. He assumed as maybe its programming concerning he programmed it to take care of Charlie, but the marionette was broken due to the rain it conquered to get out there. Henry looked at his daughter's grave. He felt sad and guilty for not noticing how she was locked outside the restaurant before her passing. I'm sure it wasn't your fault. Some jerks probably locked her outside as some joke, and some psychopath probably came by and... Yeah. I put my hand on Henry's shoulder to reassure him. I'm not sure how well it worked, but at least I tried. It was upsetting to know that people were psychotic enough to go out of their way and take the lives of children who had done absolutely nothing wrong. It made me sick. Thanks, Mike. Still doesn't really change the fact that I'll never get her back. Henry seemed to feel better. At least better enough to ask another question. Hey, I haven't asked, but how's work going for you? I wasn't expecting this question, but Henry was probably trying to change the subject, which I understood. Oh, well, I was let go. I already thought about earlier that week in which I was fired from the mall. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you looking for somewhere to work now, or not? Henry continued with the questions. Yeah, I was trying to find some jobs, but none of them stood out to me, or paid well. Henry's face lit up when I said that. Well, I may have something for you then. Excuse me. I wondered what he was talking about, but I let him speak as we were walking back to our cars. It's a security job, which I know you're pretty knowledgeable about. Alright, what is it? I asked. I was thinking of doing other security jobs, as those were pretty easy for me. I'm thinking of rebranding Freddy's. It'll still be the same name, but the characters will be rebranding into more kid-friendly variants of themselves. So, what I want is someone to watch over the restaurant at night, possibly clean some things up as well so it could be ready to be salvaged and rebuilt. What do you say? I thought about it for a second. A night shift wasn't really my thing, but if all I had to do was clean some stuff and watch over a dusty building with animatronics, it shouldn't be that bad. Yeah, I'll take it. When do you want me to start? Since I plan on having construction starting next Sunday, why don't you start tomorrow? Alright, sounds good. This will be easy for me to do, and a good way to get money. Easy money. Alright, so your shift will begin tomorrow at 12 a.m. and go all the way to 6 a.m. I'll call you at the beginning of each night to help you get ready. Henry spoke with glee in his words. We made our way back to the parking lot by the end of our conversation. Okay, talk to you then, I guess. We shook hands and went our own ways. As Henry walked back to his car, I got in mine and pulled out the Fazbear Plus I took. It was dirty from sitting outside for years, but it was still recognizable. Okay, little buddy, you're gonna sit on this dashboard until we can get home. I didn't know why I was talking to a stuffed animal. Maybe it's that made me feel close to my brother now. I booted up the car and started my adventure back home. Traffic was less chaotic as it wasn't crowded with people going to work. Fazbear sat on the dashboard and bounced around as I drove down the twisty roads. I made it home, took Fazbear, and went inside. I placed down the Plus on the kitchen counter and made myself some dinner. Sure, a plate of spaghetti wasn't much, but it'll do for the time being. Today hadn't really been too much eventful, but it felt like it had. I laid in my bed and staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow night was the night I began my new job, so I had plenty of rest. So I had to get plenty of rest, since for next week, I wouldn't be able sleeping at night anymore. I didn't have to dream tonight. I knew there were nights where I didn't have to dream, but those felt rare. Only thing was, I had a different dream. I was at a restaurant. Not just any restaurant, but the one I'm supposed to be working at later today. The mascot animals were sitting on stage in robotic fashion. I wasn't carrying my brother up to any of the mouths. In fact, I felt like I was a kid myself. I was sitting at a booth, a fresh slice of pizza sitting on a plate in front of me. I was confused as to why I was here. Is my dream telling me something, or am I just dreaming about being a kid at Freddy Fazbear's? That question was answered nearly immediately when I saw a yellow figure standing in a corner of the room. I could barely make out what it was since it was blurry in my dream, but I could see what I thought were two long rabbit-like ears. I felt attracted to it, like it was wanting me to follow it somewhere. I got up and walked towards it. A loud ringing bounced in my ears as I got close to it. The shape started to walk down a hall, assuming I was to follow it. We kept walking down an area where I don't think a kid was allowed, but the figure seemed to know what it was doing, even if I couldn't see a face. It stopped at a door, still no talking. The thing went over to the door and turned a knob. I was curious and cautious as to what was happening. As the door slowly opened, my eyes flew open. My dream was suddenly over, and it felt like I needed to throw up. I swiftly got up from my bed and ran to the bathroom. The ringing was still in my ears, and I think that's what made me nauseous. Unfortunately for me, I threw up. It was terrible and it felt disgusting afterwards. Fortunately for me, the ringing stopped right after. I had no idea what was causing the ringing, but I was just glad it was gone now. After all that commotion, I headed back to my room and sat on my bed. I looked at the time and it was already 7 in the morning. I had a feeling I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep, so I just got up and did my usual morning routine. A slice of toast wasn't really enough for me, especially since I threw up earlier and my stomach was empty. I had remembered that there was a great breakfast place at the mall. I would go there any time I didn't eat breakfast, and I would always order eggs and waffles as a quick breakfast meal. I decided that that's where I would go, I got myself dressed and grabbed my money and anything else I would need. I was about to head out the door when I felt like I was forgetting something. That's when I turned around to check, and I saw the Fazbear Plus staring at me. Well, as much staring as a flopped-over Plus can do. It almost felt like it was calling out for me to take it. Oh, I'm sorry. I decided to grab it. I decided to grab the Plus, but I wouldn't bring it into the mall, especially with how dirty it was. The mall was just the same as it was when I left a few weeks ago. Great news was that the breakfast place I was looking for was still there. Good old morning, right? I could always trust it. I walked over and got in line. It seemed like I wasn't the only one wanting some of Morning Right's food. It took a little bit for me to order and get my food, but once I had it, I sat down and got ready to start munching. I saw another security guard standing around. He seemed to be a new guy who replaced me. It didn't take much longer for a friendly face to see me and come over to say hi. Yo, Mike! Gary's voice appeared as I was munching on a waffle bite. I swallowed and responded. Hey Gary, how's it going? Been pretty lonely since you left. The new guy's fine, but he's not much of a talker like you were. Gary sat down across from me. He was having a slightly more energetic mood, I remember him. Normally being, but he sounded relatively tired. I took a sip of the soda and I ordered. So, how's things with you? Have you found any new jobs yet? Well, I talked with a friend of mine and he offered me a nighttime security shift. I actually begin tonight. I took another bite of my waffle. I honestly think Morning Right made better waffles than my mom did. Oh, where's it at? Gary looked intrigued by the new opportunity, by the new job that Henry gave me. It's at a children's restaurant. I'm pretty sure it's only 20 minutes from here, so I might be stopping by here every morning for some breakfast for next week. I grabbed another bite of my waffle before sipping some more soda. The only place I can think of that fits that description is Fazbear's Pizza. Is that where you're talking about? Yeah. My friend was the owner of the building, and he said that he was thinking of rebuilding the place and rebranding it a little bit. Oh, that's cool. I was wondering if they ever do with that location since it's been sitting there for 5 years. I nearly finished my waffle, but I wanted to take another sip of my soda. Hey, can I have the last bite of your waffle? Gary asked me. I was going to eat it, but I guess not eating one small piece wouldn't hurt me. Oh, yeah, sir. I pushed the plate towards Gary. Thanks, man. Gary picked up the last piece and ate it. Just one look at his face could tell you that he enjoyed it, though it was a small piece. So, Gary swallowed a small waffle chunk. Anything else interesting happened behind getting a job, besides getting a job at Freddy's? No, not really. It's mostly been just me looking for a job. The only other thing I've done was I went to the cemetery yesterday. I took another sip of my soda. I was getting near the point where this melting ice and soda mixed and started mixing weirdly. Huh. What did you do at the graveyard for? You never said anything about going there before. I almost thought you had no interest in it. I never told you this, but I used to have 2 younger siblings. They both passed away at a young age. I sighed before mentioning the passing of my brother and sister. I wasn't going to exactly say how they died, especially not my brother. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I'm assuming they were buried there, which is why you went there? Gary looked around for a second. He just wanted to check the surrounding areas to make sure everything was in check. Plus, he probably had to go back to work soon anyways. Yeah, me and my friend just kind of went there and had a little moment with our lost ones. Oh, well, I'm sorry for you both. I'd love to keep chatting, but I've got to get back to work. I'm sure you are going to want to do other things before having to get to work tonight. Gary started to stand up from the seat and held out his hand to shake mine. I took his hand and shook it. Alright, see you around, Mike. Gary waved as he started walking off. It wasn't much, but it was a conversation. I knew it wouldn't be long anyways, as I knew how strict Mal is with work. The day was slow for the rest of it. There wasn't much to do besides sit around the house and wait for the time to come. Once I got in my car and drove off. I passed people heading home for the night as I drove through the roads. Some past sights that were all too familiar for me. The graveyard, the mall, and my old school. The school had been running for years. My dad even went there. I used to always be able to brag about how my dad was the one who made popular diners in town when I was younger. Everyone was jealous too. They didn't get free tokens at Fredbear's. I had taken the Fredbear Plus with me to work tonight, so that I had some company with me, even though it was just a plus. But knowing Henry, I probably wouldn't be alone in there anyways. It only took a few more miles to drive to the location, but boy was it a sight when I arrived. The exterior walls had mixes of bricks and yellow and blue concrete. Everything was dirty and run down looking since the building had been abandoned for 5 years. But you could tell where there was life behind those vines. There's a sign right above the main entrance that was labeled with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and Entertainment, and small text curved around above it saying, "Where fantasy and fun come to life." The sign also had a big light-up sign with a brown bear character, which I recognized as Freddy from the old Fredbear and Friends cartoon my brother used to watch. The bear would wave down to customers as I walked into the building. I parked my car in the cracked parking lot and got out, taking Fazbear with me. I approached the doors and I saw the gate was blocking it. I didn't know if there were any keys I needed or not. I looked through the windows that were on either side of the door, but I could barely see anything through them, with how dusty and how dark it was inside. I messed around with the gate a little bit and felt it budge. Turns out it was already unlocked, which was terrible security if they were trying to keep everything in here. I moved the gate aside and opened the dusty glass doors. I still couldn't see much besides faint outlines inside, but I could definitely tell there was a welcome desk to the right of me, as well as an archway that led to the main room, I assumed. Making my way through the dark and into the next room, which I could definitely tell was the main room because of its size. I still couldn't make out that much though, so I continued my way around, looking for what I hope is my office where I'll be spending the rest of my week's nights in. Fortunately for me, the sound of a phone went off. It startled me since I was in the dark and there was no noise except for my walking. I was able to follow it and find some back corridors. One of the halls split off into two sides, and there was a light coming from the end of one of them, so I assumed they went into the same room. I walked down the hall and made my way to the room. It looked like an office, and the phone ringing was coming from in there, so I found my way to where I needed to be. I walked inside and looked around. There were two doors on each side of the room and windows right next to them. The walls had a brick lower half and a dirtied up gray concrete looking top with a black and white checkered tile separating them. There were paper drawings on the walls of different characters: blue rabbits, yellow chickens, brown bears, and red foxes. I knew each one of them. The phone ringing was getting to my head, so I decided to pick up before I did any more observations of my new office. "Hey, Mike, you finally picked up. I've only been sitting here for 2 minutes." The voice was Henry's voice. "Oh, hey, Henry, sorry about that. I was suddenly lost in the dark and I was looking at the stuff in the office." I still looked around as we talked. "That's alright, Mike. I knew it'd be dark for you, so I set some stuff up earlier today for you. Which should probably explain why the gate was unlocked when you got there." It made more sense for Henry to come by earlier that day to get stuff set up for me and leave the gate open since I was going to be there later. Unfortunately, that door won't be unlocked the next time you come back, so I gave you the keys. They should be on the desk right in front of the pizzeria's monitor system. I looked at the desk, and sure enough, there were keys. I grabbed them and put them in my pocket so I would lock them up in the morning. Alright, I got them. Good, now there should be some stuff in the chair in front of the desk. It's a security uniform and flashlight, so if you ever need to head out to the pizzeria, you can have something to light your way. Who knows, maybe you can put it to use later and get used to the restaurant. I spotted stuff on the chair. There's a vest slumped over the top of it with a flashlight in the seat. Yep, I see them. I picked up the vest and looked at it, viewing the badge that said Fazbear Security. The vest was simple, dark blue color, but there was a slight checker pattern on it. Go ahead, try it on. It should be a one size fits all. I put on the vest. Fit first one arm through one sleeve hole and my other arm through the other one. It fits me perfectly. I fixed the shirt a little bit so I look nicer, even though there's no one to look good for here. Perfect! Now that you have your equipment, let's go over what you'll be doing for the nights ahead. I sat myself down in a chair and pulled myself closer to the desk where I'm assuming I'll be at a lot. So, as you probably already figured out, in front of you should be a desk where you'll be sitting for most of the night. On it are the camera systems, a fan to keep you cool, and pieces of trash that were left by previous night guards. I know I probably could have taken care of that when I was there earlier, but I'll leave it up to you. I put some buttons on the camera controller and watched as the cameras on the screen would switch to different spots in the restaurant. Every camera works except for the kitchen, for whatever reason. Next up are the doors. You might have noticed 2 doors on either side of the office. Those are there in case one door is broken and staff need to leave the room. There are 2 buttons next to each door. One controls the lights and the other closes the door itself. Give it a try. Just don't stand in the doorway when you close the door. I stood up from my chair and went over to the door entered from. I started by pushing the light, which led to the space outside the door instantly lighting up. I pushed the button to close the door and stood back. A metal door had fallen almost immediately, hitting the floor with a loud crash. Now I know why you said stand back. I opened the door, and it continued to let Henry speak. Well, that should be about all. Wait, there's one more thing I have to tell you. The building runs on a limited power supply at night, so the characters can work without shutting down during the day. Keeping the doors closed and using cameras and lights do take power, so try to use them as little as possible. I thought it wouldn't be much of a problem, as I probably wouldn't have to need to close the doors anyways. They're probably just there to keep guests out during the day. Alright, got it, boss. Great. Now that should be all for tonight. I'll call you back tomorrow night and have you report on tonight. You do have a task for tonight, and that's to clean up the space a little bit. You know, make it look good for construction. I'll let you go now. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night. Henry hung up the phone as I was left